The transport ship shuddered as it docked with Station Omega-7. Alex Chen pressed his face against the small window and stared at the massive structure spinning slowly in space. This was it. His new home for the next 3 years. The place where Earth's newest cultural attaché would try to prove that humans belonged among the stars. Alex was 28 years old and had spent his entire career studying alien cultures. He spoke 6 different galactic languages and had written 3 books about interspecies communication. But standing here now, watching the docking process, he felt very small and very human. The airlock opened with a sharp hiss. Alex stepped through and immediately felt the difference. The gravity was lighter than Earth's. The air tasted metallic. Strange sounds echoed through the corridors, clicks, whistles, and low humming noises that his human ears could barely understand. A tall figure approached him. The being had blue-green skin, 4 eyes, and wore the formal robes of the Galactic Council. This was Ambassador Voss, an Alterian who had been working in galactic politics for over 200 years. "Welcome to Station Omega-7, Voss said. His voice came through a translation device attached to his throat. "I am Ambassador Voss. You must be the human representative." Alex nodded and extended his hand. "Alex Chen. Thank you for having me here." Voss looked at the extended hand with confusion. Then he made a sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. "Ah yes, the human custom of physical contact. How primitive." Alex lowered his hand, his cheeks turning red. This was not a good start. Voss led Alex through the station's main corridors. The walls were made of some kind of smooth metal that seemed to glow with its own light. Strange symbols flickered across display screens. Aliens of dozens of different species walked past them, talking in languages Alex had only read about in books. The station houses representatives from 47 different worlds, Voss explained as they walked. "We handle trade agreements, territorial disputes, and cultural exchanges. Your planet's membership in the Council is still very new. Most of us are curious to see what humans can contribute." They passed a group of tall, thin beings with silver skin. Their heads turned to watch Alex as he walked by. One of them made a sound that the translator couldn't interpret, but the tone was clearly mocking. "Those are the Xanathi," Voss said. "They find human emotional responses amusing. They believe logic is the only valid basis for decision-making." Alex said nothing, but he noticed how the aliens continued to stare at him even after he passed. They entered a large chamber filled with curved desks arranged in circles. This was the council hall, where representatives gathered to discuss galactic affairs. The ceiling stretched high above them, decorated with holographic displays showing star maps and trade routes. "This is where you will observe our proceedings," Voss said. "Of course, as a cultural attaché, you will not be voting on any important matters. Humans are still too new to galactic politics for that level of responsibility." More aliens were gathering in the hall. Alex saw beings with scales, beings with fur, beings that looked like they were made of living rock. All of them seemed to tower over his human frame. He was definitely the smallest person in the room. A chime sounded, and the representatives took their seats. Voss gestured for Alex to follow him to a small observation area. "Today we have a special ceremony," Voss announced to the assembled aliens. "We welcome our newest cultural attaché from the planet Earth." Alex stood up and waved nervously. The gesture looked clumsy compared to the elegant movements of the other species. Several representatives made sounds that the translators interpreted as amusement. "As per our ancient traditions," Voss continued, "each new cultural attaché receives a special assignment. This helps us understand how your species approaches complex interpersonal challenges." Alex felt his stomach tighten. This didn't sound good. Voss pulled out a data pad and pretended to read from it seriously. "Alex Chen of Earth, you are hereby assigned to the rehabilitation and cultural integration of Subject 7749X. The hall erupted in sounds that Alex's translator rendered as laughter. Some of the representatives were actually slapping their appendages together in what looked like applause. Alex looked around in confusion. "Excuse me," Alex said, "but who is Subject 7749X?" Voss's 4 eyes glittered with amusement. Subject 7749X is the former queen of the Vortak Empire. She has been in our detention facilities for the past 8 months. Your job is to help her adjust to her new circumstances. The laughter grew louder. Alex noticed that even the usually serious Anathi representatives were making sounds of amusement. "I don't understand," Alex said. "What happened to her empire?" "The Vortak Empire fell 3 years ago," explained another representative, a large being covered in thick brown fur. "Their fleet was destroyed. Their worlds were conquered. The queen was captured and brought here as a war prisoner." "But why is everyone laughing?" Alex asked. "Because," Voss said with obvious satisfaction, "no one has been able to get through to her. She refuses to eat, refuses medical treatment, refuses to speak to anyone. 3 professional xenopsychologists have tried to help her. 2 cultural specialists have attempted rehabilitation. All of them gave up within weeks. She just sits in her quarters staring out the window," added the furry representative. "She hasn't spoken a word in 4 months. Most of us think she's completely broken." Alex felt a cold weight settling in his stomach. "And you want me to try to help her?" "It's a wonderful learning experience," Voss said sweetly. "It will teach you about the realities of galactic politics. Sometimes even great queens fall, and when they do, there's nothing anyone can do to put them back together again." The representatives were clearly enjoying this. Alex realized that this wasn't really an assignment. It was a joke. They were giving him an impossible task and waiting for him to fail. It was their way of showing the new human that his species was naive and unprepared for the harsh realities of galactic life. "Where are her quarters?" Alex asked quietly. "Detention Level 5, Section C," Voss replied. "But I should warn you, human, don't expect too much. Greater minds than yours have tried and failed." Alex nodded and left the council hall. He could hear the representatives still laughing as the doors closed behind him. The elevator ride to Detention Level 5 felt very long. Alex tried to prepare himself for what he might find. According to the files Voss had given him, Queen Kira of the Vortak Empire had once ruled over 17 star systems. She had commanded a fleet of 3,000 ships and governed a population of 40 billion beings. Now she was a prisoner on a space station, broken and forgotten. The detention level was quieter than the rest of the station. The walls here were plain gray metal, and the air recycling system made a constant humming sound. Alex found Section C and walked slowly down the corridor until he reached the door marked 7749X. He pressed the entry chime and waited. No response. He pressed it again. Still nothing. Finally, Alex used his new access codes to override the door lock. The door slid open with a soft whoosh. The quarters were larger than Alex had expected. There was a sleeping area, a small food preparation station, and a seating area with a large window that looked out into space. But what caught Alex's attention was the figure sitting motionless in front of that window. Queen Kira was tall, probably 7 feet in height, with 4 arms and skin that should have glowed with bioluminescent patterns. But her skin was dull gray now, almost lifeless. She wore a simple prisoner's uniform instead of royal robes. Her 4 arms hung limp at her sides. She didn't move when Alex entered. She didn't even seem to notice he was there. "Your Majesty," Alex said softly. No response. Alex moved closer, careful not to startle her. Now he could see her face. It was elegant and alien, with large eyes that once might have been bright gold but now looked faded and empty. She was staring out at the stars with an expression of complete despair. "My name is Alex," he said, settling into a chair nearby. "I'm from Earth. I've been asked to spend some time with you." Kira's eyes flickered toward him for just a moment. Then she looked back out the window. I know this is probably difficult, Alex continued. Having a stranger show up in your quarters. But I was hoping we could talk. Leave. The word was so quiet Alex almost missed it. I'm sorry. Leave, Kira repeated, slightly louder this time. Her voice was rough, as if she hadn't used it in a very long time. There is nothing to talk about. Actually, I think there might be, Alex said gently. I've been reading about the Vorthak Empire. It sounds like it was an amazing civilization. Kira's shoulders tensed slightly. It was. Now it's gone. But you're still here. I am no one, Kira said. I am nothing. I was a queen, and I failed my people. Now I am just a broken thing that the council keeps as a reminder of their power. Alex felt his heart break a little at the pain in her voice. You're not nothing. You're Kira, and you're still here. For the first time, Kira turned to look at him directly. Her golden eyes studied his human features with something that might have been curiosity. Why are you here, human? She asked. What do you hope to gain from this? Alex considered the question carefully. He could tell her about the council's joke, about how they expected him to fail. But that would only hurt her more. I brought tea, he said instead, pulling a small container from his bag. It's from Earth. It's supposed to help with stress and sadness. I thought maybe you'd like to try some. Kira stared at him as if he had just said something completely insane. Tea. I know it sounds simple, Alex said, already feeling foolish. But sometimes simple things help. And I thought maybe you might be curious about Earth customs. For a long moment, Kira said nothing. Then, to Alex's surprise, one of her 4 arms moved slightly. You may prepare your tea, she said quietly. I will try it. Alex smiled and moved to the food preparation station. His hands shook slightly as he heated water and measured out the tea leaves. This felt like the most important cup of tea he had ever made. When it was ready, he carried 2 cups back to the seating area. Kira took 1 cup in 2 of her hands, holding it carefully. She sniffed it delicately, then took a small sip. It's warm, she said, sounding surprised. Most Earth beverages are served warm, Alex explained. We think it's comforting. They sat in silence for several minutes, drinking tea and looking out at the stars. Alex didn't try to force conversation. He just sat there, sharing the quiet space with this broken queen who had lost everything. Finally, Kira spoke again. Your council thinks this is amusing, don't they? Giving you an impossible task. Alex nearly choked on his tea. How did you know? I've been here for 8 months, Kira said. I understand how they think. They believe I'm beyond help. They think any attempt to rehabilitate me will fail. She looked at Alex with those sad golden eyes. They're probably right. Maybe, Alex said. But I'd like to find out for myself, if that's okay with you. Kira was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was very soft. Why would you waste your time on someone like me? Because, Alex said, surprising himself with the certainty in his voice, I don't think you're waste. I think you're someone who's been through something terrible and needs time to heal. Something flickered across Kira's face. For just a moment, her skin showed the faintest hint of bioluminescent pattern. Then it faded back to gray. I don't know how to heal, she whispered. That's okay, Alex said. Maybe we can figure it out together. Outside the window, the stars continued their ancient dance. Inside the small quarters, a human and a fallen queen sat drinking tea, taking the first small steps on what would become an impossible journey. Neither of them knew it yet, but this moment would change everything. Not just for them, but for the entire Galactic Council's understanding of what humans could accomplish. The joke was just beginning, but it was already starting to backfire in ways the Council never could have imagined. 3 weeks had passed since Alex first entered Kira's quarters with a cup of earth tea. Now he visited every day, sometimes bringing food from different human cultures, sometimes bringing books about Earth history, and sometimes just sitting quietly while Kira stared out at the stars. The change was slow but noticeable. Kira had started eating regular meals again. Her skin showed faint traces of bioluminescence when she was interested in something Alex was saying. Most importantly, she had begun to speak about her past without the crushing weight of despair that had once filled every word. Today Alex brought a chess set. "This is a strategy game from Earth," he explained, setting up the pieces on a small table near the window. 2 players try to capture the other's king using different pieces that move in different ways. Kira examined the carved wooden pieces with 2 of her hands while her other 2 hands held a cup of the herbal tea that had become part of their daily routine. "The queen is the most powerful piece," Alex continued, pointing to the elegant figure. "She can move in any direction, as far as she wants. The other pieces are more limited." "And the king?" Kira asked. "The king is the most important piece, but also the weakest. The whole game is about protecting him." Kira picked up the queen piece and turned it over in her palm. In the Vorthak Empire, the queen was both the most powerful and the most important. There was no separation. "What was it like?" Alex asked gently. "Being responsible for so many people." For a moment, Alex thought Kira wouldn't answer. She often retreated into silence when the conversation touched on her former life. But today she surprised him. "Heavy," she said quietly. "Every decision affected billions of lives. Every trade agreement, every military action, every law I signed. I used to lie awake at night thinking about all the people counting on me to make the right choices." She placed the queen piece back on the board. "I failed them all." "You lost a war," Alex said. "That doesn't mean you failed as a leader. Doesn't it?" Kira's golden eyes flashed with old pain. "My fleet was destroyed. My worlds were conquered. My people are scattered across the galaxy as refugees. If that isn't failure, what is?" Alex studied the chess board, thinking carefully about his words. "My planet has a saying, it's not how hard you fall, it's how high you bounce back." "I haven't bounced back," Kira said bitterly. "I'm sitting in a detention cell drinking tea with a human who was given to me as a joke." "Maybe," Alex said. "But you're talking to me. 3 weeks ago you wouldn't even look at me. 2 weeks ago you thought you were nothing. Today you're teaching me about Vorthak leadership philosophy while learning to play chess. That sounds like bouncing to me." Kira was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was thoughtful. "Why do you keep coming here, Alex?" "Really? Not the diplomatic answer you gave the council. The real reason." Alex moved a pawn forward on the chessboard. "Because I think the galaxy needs leaders who care about their people as much as you did. And because I think you're not done being that kind of leader yet." Before Kira could respond, an alarm started blaring throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the corridors outside. The window in Kira's quarters showed emergency beacons activating on nearby ships. Alex's communication device buzzed with an urgent message. He read it quickly, his face growing pale. "What is it?" Kira asked, noticing his expression. "Pirates," Alex said grimly. "They're attacking a refugee convoy in the outer system. The convoy is carrying Vorthak families." Kira's entire body went rigid. For the first time in weeks, bright patterns of light flashed across her skin. "My people?" "According to this report, yes. 3 transport ships carrying about 5,000 refugees. They were heading to the Kepler colonies to start new lives." Kira stood up abruptly, her full height making Alex feel very small. "What is the council doing about it?" Alex checked his device again. "They're debating whether to respond. The pirates are operating outside council space, so technically it's not their responsibility." "Not their responsibility?" Kira's voice rose, and her skin blazed with angry red patterns. Those are innocent civilians. Families with children. The pirates know the council won't risk their ships for refugees, Alex said sadly. That's why they attack these convoys. Kira began pacing the small quarters, her 4 arms moving in agitated gestures. Alex had never seen her this animated. The broken, defeated queen was gone, replaced by someone who radiated authority and barely controlled fury. How long do they have? Kira asked. The pirates sent an ultimatum. The refugees have 2 hours to transfer all their possessions or the pirates will destroy the ships. 2 hours. Kira stopped pacing and stared out the window. The nearest council patrol ships are 4 hours away, even at maximum speed. Alex watched her carefully. He could almost see her mind working, calculating distances and possibilities. This was the queen who had once commanded a fleet of 3,000 ships. Alex, Kira said suddenly, I need you to get me access to the station's communication array. What? Why? Because I'm going to save my people. Kira, you're a prisoner here. You don't have any ships, any weapons, any authority. No, Kira said, and for the first time since Alex had known her, she smiled. It was a fierce, determined smile that made her skin glow with brilliant gold patterns. But I have something better. I have knowledge. Within an hour, Alex had managed to get Kira temporary access to the station's command center. Ambassador Voss and several other council representatives watched in amazement as the fallen queen studied star charts and communication frequencies with the intensity of a master strategist. This is ridiculous, Voss muttered. What can she possibly do from here? Kira ignored him, her 4 hands dancing across multiple control panels simultaneously. The pirates are using standard pack hunting tactics, she said, more to herself than to anyone else. 3 attack ships in a triangle formation, forcing the refugee convoy into a defensive cluster. How do you know that? Asked Commander Thex, the station's military officer. Because I fought these same pirates for 10 years when I was queen, Kira replied. This is the Crimson Fleet, led by Captain Vex. They always use the same formation because it's effective against merchant ships. Her skin pulsed with rapid patterns of light as she worked. Alex realized this was the first time he was seeing Kira as she truly was, not broken, not defeated, but brilliant and dangerous and completely in control. There, Kira said, pointing at the star chart. That asteroid field 12 minutes from the convoy's current position. If the refugees could reach it, they'd have cover from the pirates' heavy weapons. But they can't outrun the pirate ships, Commander Thex pointed out. Refugee transports are too slow. Not outrun, Kira said with that fierce smile. Outthink. She opened a communication channel to the refugee convoy. When the lead transport captain appeared on screen, his eyes widened in shock. My queen, he gasped. We thought you were dead. I'm very much alive, Captain Wren, Kira said gently. And I'm going to get you out of this. For the next 90 minutes, Alex watched in fascination as Kira orchestrated one of the most brilliant tactical maneuvers he had ever witnessed. She used her knowledge of pirate tactics, her understanding of refugee ship capabilities, and her natural gift for strategy to turn a hopeless situation into a victory. First, she had the refugee ship split up and move in different directions, forcing the pirates to divide their attention. Then she guided each transport through a carefully planned series of moves that used asteroids, gas clouds, and debris fields to block the pirates' weapons. The pirates, expecting easy prey, found themselves chasing shadows through a cosmic maze that seemed designed to frustrate their every move. Their leader, Captain Vex, grew increasingly angry as his supposedly simple raid turned into a complex game of three-dimensional chess. Finally, Kira sprang her trap. She had maneuvered all 3 refugee ships into positions where they could support each other while the pirates were spread out and vulnerable. When a council patrol ship finally arrived, the pirates found themselves caught between the patrol ship's weapons and the refugees' defensive positions. Captain Vex's forces retreated, leaving the convoy safe and unharmed. The command center erupted in cheers from the station's crew. Even the usually stern Commander Thex was smiling. But Alex only had eyes for Kira. She stood at the command console, her skin blazing with patterns of gold and silver light. This was what she had been born to do: protect her people, outthink her enemies, turn impossible situations into victories. For the first time since Alex had known her, Kira looked truly alive. Incredible, breathed Ambassador Voss. Simply incredible. That was no accident, added the Xanathi representative. That level of tactical thinking requires years of experience and natural talent. Commander Thex stepped forward, his expression serious. Your Majesty, the Council has been looking for someone to coordinate our defense against pirate activity in the outer systems. Our current strategies have been largely ineffective. Kira turned to look at him, her golden eyes sharp with interest. Go on. We need someone who understands how pirates think, someone who can predict their movements and counter their tactics. Someone with proven strategic abilities. Thex paused, then continued carefully. We'd like to offer you a position as Strategic Defense Coordinator. The command center fell silent. Alex held his breath, watching Kira's face. That's one of our highest military ranks, Voss said quietly. The Strategic Defense Coordinator has authority over all Council defense operations. It's a position that commands tremendous respect. Kira looked around the room, her gaze lingering on each face. Finally, her eyes settled on Alex. What about my status as a prisoner? She asked. Pardoned, Commander Thex said immediately. Full Council citizenship, with all rights and privileges. And my people? The refugees? We'll establish a formal resettlement program, Voss promised. Full support for any Vorthak refugees who want to start new lives in Council space. Kira was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was steady and sure. I accept, on one condition. Name it, Commander Thex said. Alex Chen will serve as my cultural advisor. His insights into human problem-solving methods have been invaluable to me. Alex felt his jaw drop. Kira, I'm just a cultural attaché. I don't know anything about military strategy. You know about hope, Kira said simply. You know about not giving up on people. You know about finding strength in unexpected places. She turned back to Commander Thex. Those skills are exactly what the Council's defense forces need. 1 week later, Alex stood in the Council hall watching Kira take her oath of office. She wore new ceremonial robes that honored both her Vorthak heritage and her new position in the Council. Her skin glowed with steady, confident patterns of light. The same representatives who had laughed when Alex was given his impossible assignment now watched in respectful silence as the former prisoner became one of their highest-ranking officers. Ambassador Voss approached Alex after the ceremony, his expression a mixture of confusion and grudging admiration. I don't understand it, Voss admitted. We gave you a broken queen as a joke. How did you turn her into our strategic defense coordinator? Alex smiled, thinking back to that first day when he had brought tea to a despairing woman staring out at the stars. I didn't turn her into anything, he said. I just reminded her who she already was. Across the hall, Kira caught his eye and performed the traditional Vorthak gesture of deep gratitude, a complex movement of all four hands that meant, you gave me back my stars. But Alex knew better. Kira had never lost her stars. She had just forgotten how to see them in the darkness. All he had done was sit with her until the light came back. The Council's cruel joke had backfired in the most spectacular way possible. They had tried to humiliate the human by giving him an impossible task. Instead, they had given the galaxy one of its greatest strategic minds, and given Earth's newest diplomat a lesson in the power of simple human compassion. Sometimes the greatest victories come not from strength or cunning, but from the willingness to see potential where others see only failure. And sometimes, the best way to lift someone up is simply to believe they can stand. As Alex watched Kira take her first briefing as Strategic Defense Coordinator, he couldn't help but smile. The fallen queen had indeed risen higher than anyone else could have imagined. But the real victory wasn't in her new position or the council's grudging respect. The real victory was in the light that now shone from her golden eyes, the light of someone who had remembered that even in the darkest moments, there is always hope for a new beginning.